Greetings, booktubers, and welcome back to Grammaticus Books. And today on Grammaticus Books, we're going to shift literary gears. We're going to downshift here from our normal covering of books on vintage science fiction and vintage fantasy. We're going to step outside of that bailiwick, shift down into a little bit of a more stately and serene gear, and we're going to talk about Rumpole the Bailey. So, who is Rumpole the Bailey, and why am I reading Rumpole the Bailey? Those are two questions. I'll take them into order. Rumpole the Bailey is Horace Rumpole. That's the character. And he is a barrister, which just means an attorney, who is working in the criminal court system of London. He works down in the Old Bailey. He is, quote unquote, an Old Bailey hack, which just means that he's an attorney who works at the Central Criminal Court of London in this old, antiquated building, this historic building where they see all the major criminal cases for London and the surrounding countryside of England, for most of England, really. And he's a public defender. So there's episodes of him defending people who've been accused of various crimes. And he's an elderly barrister who's getting ready to retire, but he has decades of experience and he's very sharp. He's an exceptionally sharp attorney, but he dresses like a bumpkin. And so people frequently underestimate him. And in a nutshell, that's what Rumpole the Bailey is. Now, this originally started as a BBC television program, or I should just say a British television program that first aired in 1978 with a screenplay written by John Mortimer. And it was so popular, it ran from 1978 all the way to 1992. And in fact, it had such a following that it generated spin-off radio shows by John Mortimer and spin-off novelizations of the episodes, also written by John Mortimer. And what I did is I read a library book. I went out and I got a library book of Rumpole the Bailey, which is the self-titled book, which just covers the first 6 episodes of season 1 of Rumpole the Bailey. And John Mortimer had absolutely the perfect chops to write this book. He was himself a barrister working within the British criminal court system for over 30 years. And so he has a tremendous amount of experience, and he brings that authenticity and experience and puts it into his books. And that's what really makes these stories shine, and these episodes that he wrote for British television stand out. Write what you know, and that is definitely what he knows. So that's what I read. Why did I read it? Back in the 1980s, yeah, we're getting in our time machine. We're getting into the Wayback Machine. Back in the 1980s, when young Grammaticus would finish eating dinner with his family, he would go out into the living room, and my parents would turn on the TV. And most households only had one TV at this point, and it was a giant cathode ray tube affair that you could use to anchor a battleship with if you had hooked a chain up to it and threw it off the edge of the battleship. And there were only 4 TV channels. You had 3 VHF channels, which were CBS, ABC, and NBC, and you had 1 UHF channel, which was PBS. And this is what my parents would turn the TV to after dinner. PBS, which would show all these old British shows, such as Are You Being Served, Masterpiece Theatre, and Rumpole the Bailey. And I just got a little bit of nostalgia in me, and I wanted to go back and watch Rumpole the Bailey. And when I went into the library system, I saw that they actually had books of it, discovered that the books didn't spawn the TV series, but it was exactly the opposite. And I was like, I'm hooked. I've got to read this first book. And I'm glad I did. It was very enjoyable. Like I said, it is a much different pace. It's a much more stately and sedate pace. This is not an American crime drama. This is not an American Perry Mason or Law and Order episode. It is much, much more reserved, much, much more at a sort of a British state of pace, if you will. And they're very enjoyable. The 6 stories, I would rank them from being a 7 out of 10 all the way up to an 8 out of 10. None of them fall flat on their face, but none of them really hit the ball out of the park either. The stories are Rumpole the Bailey, Horace Rumpole, defending 6 different clients. Each story is 1 episode out of the TV show, which is a different case. And he's defending a rapist, a group of people accused of assault and robbery, a murderer, one divorce case, which was actually the best story out of the 6 of them, I thought, a safe cracker, and a drug dealer. And that was the least enjoyable of the cases, Rumpole and the Alternative Society. But the highlight of these stories, what really makes these stories attractive, what gives them their shine, is the personalities that Rumpole interacts with in the Old Bailey down there in London. That he's been there, he's a fixture, he knows all of the judges, he knows all the prosecutors, he knows all the investigators in the London Police Department. And it's his knowledge of their personalities and their character strengths and their character weaknesses that lets him tailor his cases in order to suit their personalities, and the interplay of these personalities in the courtroom as Rumpole tries to socially manipulate them, that really brings these stories out and gives them the enjoyability that they do have. And with all these stories, as you're following Rumpole in the court, as these cases are unfolding, you're learning about them, there's also a parallel story that goes along with each one of these. And that's with Rumpole's home life. Because whatever's going on in the court, you have a home situation between his wife, who is she who must be obeyed, a little reference there to H.R. Haggard, and with his son Nick, who's in college, that mirrors what's going on in the courthouse. And so you get these dual stories that are running with each one of these episodes, and these short stories that are novelized by John Mortimer. And they're excellent. Like I said, I thought the best one was Rumpole and the Married Lady, where he steps outside of the criminal court, he goes into civil court, and he's representing a lady in a divorce case. And one of his best friends, who's also a prosecutor, is also representing a divorce case at the same time. And when they're done with their days, they meet in a restaurant and they talk about their individual divorce cases. And his friend is representing the husband. And as they're talking and meeting over the course of these dinners, as their cases progress, they slowly start to realize that they're on the opposite sides of the same case. And then they are both completely convinced that their party is the right party. And it culminates in this giant argument in the middle of this crowded restaurant, where each one assumes the personality of their client, where Rumpole becomes the wife and his friend, who's the prosecutor, the other prosecutor, becomes the husband, and they're shouting at each other like two old married couples in the middle of the restaurant. And it was really well done. It was very entertaining. And that really kind of gives you a flavor of what you're going to get with these stories, sort of the atmosphere that John Mortimer builds with them. And it's very well done. I did like it. I did enjoy it. However, if you don't enjoy a story that goes at sort of a more slower and sedately paced, if you don't enjoy droll British humor, this might not be your cup of British tea. It's my cup of British tea. I did enjoy it. I would read more of these stories. I thought they were very well done, very well written, with a lot of authenticity that John Mortimer brings to them. But if you've read any Rumpole the Bailey, or if you watched the old episodes Rumpole the Bailey, I'd love to hear what you think about it. Put it down in the comments section below. I do read and respond to all the comments. And with that, I'm going to wrap this one up, and I'm going to say take care, be safe, and I'll catch you guys next time.